Alright guys, Buffalo Bore 308 Winchester supercharged 150 grain TTSX, and I've chronographed this load at 2700 feet per second out of the 16.5 inch barrel POF Rogue. Alright guys, so now we got the Nosler trophy grade 150 grain Accubond, and I've chronographed these loads out of my 16.5 inch barrel POF Rogue. They travel at 2600 feet per second, more or less, out of that 16.5 inch barrel. So let's see what happens here. Alright guys, so now we got the choice ammunition, 165 grain Nosler Accubond. Let's see what happens here. And I've chronographed these loads out of my 16.5 inch barrel POF Rogue, and they have a muzzle velocity of 2,575 feet per second. Alright guys, so now I got the Federal Premium Nosler Partition 150 grain, and I've chronographed these loads out of my 16.5 inch barrel POF Rogue. They travel around 2,650 feet per second. Alright guys, so now I got the Federal Fusion 150 grain bonded soft point, and I've chronographed these loads at 2,615 feet per second out of my 16.5-inch barrel POF Rogue. Alright guys, so now I got the choice ammunition 168 grain TTSX. Let's see what happens here. Alright guys, so now I'm going to try the Federal PowerShok 150 grain soft point, and out of my 16.5-inch barrel POF Rogue, I chronographed this load at 2,600 feet per second. Alright guys, so now I'm going to hit it with the PPU PRVI Partition 150 grain soft point, and I've chronographed this load at 2,525 feet per second. All right, guys, so I want to go through the results of the test with you now. I was pretty impressed with the results. Pretty much all of these expanding bullets for the 308 Winchester penetrated through 4 Douglas fir 2x10s, which is about the same amount of penetration as my 44 Magnum snub-nose Smith & Wesson Model 629 with a 2 5/8 inch barrel shooting Underwood ammo 305 grain hard cast barrel loads. So a 308 Winchester expanding bullet fired from a 16-inch barrel AR-10 will penetrate roughly as deep as a 44 Magnum barrel load at 100 yards. Okay, this was at 100 yards, this test. So that's pretty impressive penetration, guys, out of a 16-inch barrel. Now, some of them actually penetrated through 5 2x10s and almost 6, all right? And that's approaching 300 Win Mag levels of penetration. I did do a test just like this with my 300 Win Mag, and I did that test at 25 yards and 200 yards. And with the 300 Win Mag, I was able to penetrate through 6 to 7 2x10s. And some of the more poorly constructed 300 Win Mag bullets penetrated only through 5. So just a little bit less penetration than a 300 Win Mag. I think that's pretty impressive. So the only 2 that didn't penetrate through 4 2x10s and penetrated through about 3 or 3.5 was the Federal PowerShok 150 grain and one of the Nosler Accubonds 150 grain Accubond. One of them only penetrated through about 3.5. So still pretty impressive. I want to go through all of these boards with you one by one so you can see the damage that was done to the wood and the expansion, the wound channel. And I'm going to recover the bullets and I'm going to weigh the bullets. I'm going to measure the expansion, and that will be at the end of this video. And the winner of this test was the Choice Ammunition 165 grain tipped Triple Shock X. That one almost penetrated through 6 2x10s, okay? And actually, the nose of those bullets punched through the back of the 6th 2x10. So theoretically, if there wasn't another 2x10 behind the 6th 2x10, it would have probably penetrated through all 6. So that is very impressive. That's more penetration than a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum with soft points. And also the Buffalo Bore 150 grain TTSX penetrated through 5 to 5.5 2x10s. So the winners of the test, not surprisingly, the TTSX from Choice Ammunition and Buffalo Bore in the 165 grain and 150 grain flavors. And the rest of the bullets pretty much got stopped by 4 2x10s. So pretty impressive penetration. I'm going to go through all of these boards with you one by one. So there were a total of 15 shots in this wood, okay? And you can see all the different hits here. Now, when I select these pieces of wood, I carefully select the 2x10s that don't have knots. So this way I can get a good result. As you see, there's no knots in any of these boards. They have a straight grain, all right? And that's what I look for when I do these tests. I don't want any knots in the wood because that'll throw off the results. If one of the bullets hits a knot, it's going to slow it down much more. Here we have the second board. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All of them passing through the second board. The holes pretty much all look the same in the second board. These are pretty big holes, guys. Here's my finger for comparison. These are probably about 1/2 inch diameter holes. So pretty impressive. And here are the exit holes on the second board. And you can see nice clean exit holes pretty much for all of them. And those are big exit holes, guys. Look at that one right here. That's a big exit hole. That's approaching almost 3/4 of an inch. So pretty impressive. Here we have the third board, or third piece of 2x10. And you can see they all pass through this one. And you can see pretty much the holes roughly the same size. You can see the Accubond from Nosler, the 150 grain Accubond, really expanding a lot. Most of the jacketed bullets are expanding a little bit more than the TTSX. Here we have the Buffalo Bore TTSX, and then up here we have the Choice Ammunition TTSX. These are the 165 grain TTSX, and these are the 150s. So you can see a little bit of a difference between the TTSX and the jacketed bullets, but not a huge difference. So pretty interesting, all leaving nice big holes. And here are the exit holes on the third board. Okay, pretty impressive for jacketed bullets coming out of a 16-inch barrel, guys. So the 308 has a lot of power, and the recoil is very manageable. Ammunition is affordable. Here we have the fourth board, and the fourth board is where 2 of our bullets got stopped in the fourth board. The 150 grain Accubond from Nosler, one of them got stuck here, and then the Federal PowerShok got stuck in the fourth board. Both of them almost penetrated. Okay, so here's the 150 grain Accubond. You can see it's basically poking out the back. So, I mean, you could theoretically say that it did penetrate through 4, but it didn't cleanly penetrate through 4. Okay, here's the nose. All right, but it did poke out the back. All the other ones just blasted right through. And then here was the 150 grain PowerShok from Federal. I already pulled that one out. Here we have the fifth board, and you can see pretty much all of them are stuck in the fifth board. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull all these bullets out for you guys, at least most of them, so we can take a look at them, see what kind of expansion occurred, what kind of weight retention. So very interesting results. I'm very happy with the results, guys. This is very impressive for a 16-inch barrel AR rifle. This kind of penetration is just fantastic, and in my opinion, enough to drop a brown bear, even a smaller brown bear, if you're hunting. And here we have our winners. Okay, we have our TTSXs here. Here we have the 2 Buffalo Bore 150 grainers. Okay, TTSX. All right, you can see they're kind of at an angle, and I think that's just because I was kind of shooting at like a 5-degree angle upwards, and it's possible that they lost a little bit of stability as they started to slow down in the wood. All right, so we have one here stuck just right on the surface of the 6th board, so cleanly penetrating through 5, all of them. Here we have the other 150 grain TTSX stuck a little bit deeper. And then here we have the winners, guys. Here we have the winners, the Choice Ammunition 165 grain TTSX. You could see one of them, the base is sticking out, and the other one is pretty deep in there, and actually this is the winner right here. Okay, this is the 6th board, And look at that, guys. This one is actually poking out the back. Really nice expansion on that 165 grain TTSX for 100 yards. Very impressive. I think this is enough for elk, possibly even brown bear. I mean, if you have an AR with 20 of these loaded up, you know, I don't think a bear would stand a chance. If you just mag dumped 20 of these into his boiler room, I think he's going to go down. So you could say about 5.5 boards, maybe 6 for the choice ammunition 165 grain TTSX. Pretty interesting results. So I'm going to pull these bullets out of the wood now. We're going to take a closer look. I'm going to weigh them, measure the expansion. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So I was able to recover all of the bullets from the wood except for one. So I want to weigh all of these bullets and check the weight retention. I want to show you guys up close what they look like after penetrating through all this wood. And I'm also going to measure the expansion. So what I have here is a digital reloading scale, and I have 100 gram weight on it. And you can see we're pretty much zeroed out. So I'm going to start weighing these bullets. Now, I'm going to start with the winner, if you will, of this test, which is the choice ammunition 168 grain TTSX. This is a fantastic bullet for a 308 Winchester. It has excellent ballistics coefficient and it penetrates deep, and you can see some nice expansion on this bullet. This is how TTSX bullets look after penetrating through things. There's not a tremendous amount of expansion, but still a good amount of expansion. So let's weigh the winner here. Okay, 167.4 grains. So basically 100% weight retention. Very impressive. This almost penetrated through 6 Douglas fir 2x10s, putting it in the class of 300 Win Mag soft points. So very impressive. I think this is going to be my hunting load for big game with my AR-10. So excellent load here from Choice Ammunition. And here's the second 168 grain TTSX from Choice Ammunition. And you can see excellent expansion at 100 yards. The pedals peeled back perfectly. And let's weigh this guy and see what kind of weight retention we have. 167.6. So basically 99.999% weight retention. Now let's move on to the Buffalo Bore 150 grain TTSX bullets. And you can see that they're noticeably shorter than the 168 grain TTSX's. Little bit more expansion because they are traveling about 150 feet per second faster than the Choice Ammunition 168 grain TTSX's. But these penetrated through 5 2x10s. Very impressive. So 150.1, that is absolutely excellent. And the second one, 149.8. Very nice expansion. And I want to just kind of show you guys a comparison between these 150 grainers and the 168 grainers, so you can see the differences between them. You can notice right off the bat that the 168 grainers on the right are noticeably longer, so they will take up more powder space and you're not going to get as much velocity. However, they do have an excellent ballistics coefficient. So for long range hunting, I personally believe the 168 grain TTSX loaded to high pressures is fantastic. Okay, and if we look at the expansion, you can see that the expansion is pretty similar. You can see that the 150 grainers on the left expanded slightly more. Now let me see if I can get you a better close up here so you guys can see the difference in expansion between these two grain weights here. You can see the two bullets on the left are the 150 grain TTSXs, and on the right 165s. Pretty similar expansion. Now I do plan to redo this test at possibly 500 yards, and that would really tell us a lot. So I'm going to measure the expansion now with my calipers on these bullets. So let's see what kind of expansion we got. So here we have the winner of our test, the 168 grain TTSX. This was the bullet that nearly penetrated 6 2x10s. Let's see what kind of expansion we got. Wow, 0.462. That is just impressive. Almost ½ inch of expansion. That is just absolutely impressive. 0.46, 0.45. So we're going to say that this bullet expanded almost to ½ inch. And here's the other 168 grain TTSX from Choice. A little bit more expansion, 0.49, 0.491. So slightly more expansion with this one for whatever reason. Now let's look at the 150 grain TTSXs and see what kind of expansion they got. 0.505, 0.516, 0.503. So slightly more. Here's the second 150 grain TTSX, 0.504. 0.473, 0.44, but at the widest, this one was 0.49, so slightly more expansion with the 150 grain TTSX. At 100 yards, not much of a difference, but I'm going to repeat this test at possibly 500 yards in the future. So stay tuned to my channel for that test. That's going to really tell the difference between these two. So let's move on to some of the jacketed expanding bullets now. All right, guys, so here we have our shallowest penetrating bullets. And on the left, we have the Federal PowerShok. And on the right, we have one of the two Nosler 150 grain Accubonds. So one of those 150 grain Accubonds penetrated just under 4 2x10s, and the other one cleanly penetrated 4 2x10s. So some variation there. But you could see this 150 grain Accubond did exactly what it was supposed to do. It stayed together. Look at how those petals peeled back, the jacket peeled back, and the core stayed with the jacket because the core is bonded to the jacket. So excellent expansion with the Accubond 150 grain 308 Winchester. Now, I've always had good experiences with Accubond bullets. I think Accubond bullets are one of the best bullets out there. Okay, so let's weigh this one and see what kind of weight retention. 124.8 grains. So it lost almost 25 grains. That's not too bad. And let's measure the expansion on it. See what kind of expansion we got. Just over ½ inch at the narrowest point. 0.515, and at the widest point we got almost
60 caliber there. Look at that. So that's a lot of expansion, guys. That would leave a big hole. 0.55. So pretty impressive expansion and weight retention with one of the Accubonds from Nosler. And here we have the PowerShok, 150 grain Federal PowerShok. And I don't believe they bond these, but I'm still impressed that it held together. It didn't really maintain much of its shape. As you can see, it kind of has this weird shape, but still it held together for the most part. So that's pretty impressive. So I guess I can try to measure expansion on one side. And we have 0.53 on one side. I'm not even going to bother measuring the longer side. And let's see what kind of weight retention. 128.6 grains. That's really good weight retention right there. So now we're going to move on to the PPU. This is the Serbian company, PRVI Partition, and I've always had really good experience with the PPU soft points, whether it be with the 300 Win Mag or 308. For whatever reason, these PPU soft points always perform very well. So I can definitely recommend the PPU soft points as an option for hunting medium-sized game, even up to elk. I would feel comfortable using this on elk or even moose, because as you see, it held together nicely, okay? And it did not separate from the jacket really that much. Everything looks pretty good here. Perfect mushrooming going on. So let's see what kind of weight retention we got here. Also 124.6 grains, so very similar to the Accubond and the PowerShok. So actually, let's just measure the expansion on this one now. So we got also about ½ inch of expansion, 0.496. And at the widest part, 0.7, but I really wouldn't count that. I would just go with around ½ inch of expansion, 50 caliber. Very impressive. Now let's check the other Nosler Accubond, the 150 grain Nosler Accubond. Excellent performance here with these Accubonds. As you see, it held together. Jacket and core bonded. Everything held together nicely. Let's just see what kind of expansion we got here. 0.51. Okay, also about the same amount of expansion. And let's weigh this guy. 119.8 grains. So very good weight retention. And these weight retention numbers will go up as you shoot further distances. So this is really good weight retention for 100 yards, which is the most common hunting distance. Now let's go into the Federal Fusion 150 grain bonded soft points. These are pretty interesting. They're kind of a softer bullet, but they're bonded. As you can see, they flattened out pretty extensively as compared to the Accubond. For example, here we have the Accubond on the right, and here we have the Federal Fusion on the left, and you can see that Federal Fusion flattened out a lot more. So the Federal Fusion definitely expanded more and has more violent expansion. Okay, you can see the Fusion on the left just much bigger than the Accubond on the right. But these Fusions are very soft and they don't penetrate well. But for deer-sized game, I think they're adequate. More than adequate, actually, for deer. So you see that, guys? 0.59, almost 0.6. And let's check the other side. 0.7. Wow, huge difference with these Federal Fusions. Okay, they are bonded, but they're just softer. The jacket material is thinner, so they expand more violently. They're made more for deer and mule deer, things like that. So I think this is a great load for deer, and mule deer and that type of game. Smaller class 3 game, probably okay. Smaller bear, up to maybe 400 pounds would probably be fine. Look at that, guys. 70 caliber projectile here. Pretty insane how you have a 30 caliber projectile, and once it hits something, it turns into a 70 caliber projectile. Here's the second Federal Fusion, also a lot of expansion, .617. Okay, so lots of expansion here, guys. .64, .558. This appears to be the widest part, .665. Okay, so lots of expansion here with these Federal Fusions, and let's see what kind of weight retention they got. Wow, pretty good weight retention, better than the Accubond's, 131.4 grains. That's very impressive. Now, some of that could be just wood that got embedded into this bullet here, but 130 grains, so pretty impressive. Moving on, we're going to go to the Partitions, which are known to be a very tough bullet. They're designed for deep penetration on heavy game. So here are the two Partitions. These are 150 grain Partitions, and very impressive results with these Partitions. They held together just like they're supposed to, okay? There's the base of one of them. You can see the nose peeled back. Got a bunch of wood embedded in there. So let's weigh these Partitions. 136.2, so the highest weight retention so far out of all the jacketed bullets. 117.9. I think that difference is because when I was prying this one out of the wood, I probably pried off a large chunk of lead. So let's check what kind of expansion we got with these Partitions here. So, good amount of expansion, 0.57. That's a lot of expansion, guys. Look at that. A lot of expansion. And then here's the other one, the lighter one, 0.46, 0.5. Okay, so impressive stuff with the Partitions. And now finally, we'll finish up with the Choice Accubond. These are 165 grain Accubonds, so they're heavier. And you can see that they maintain their shape pretty well. Did exactly what a typical Accubond bullet does. Hold together really nicely. Look at that, guys. Jackets peeled back. Everything held together. So let's just see what kind of weight retention we got. 140.6 grains. That's excellent weight retention. 136.4. So let's measure the expansion on these now. And we got about 0.55 inches of expansion on one of them. And on the other one, we got about 0.51 inches of expansion. So pretty interesting. So that's pretty much it for this test, guys. Stay tuned to my channel for the next version of this test, which is going to be at 500 yards. And I'm going to use the TTSX and probably the Accubonds. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Check out my 308 Winchester playlist for more 308 Winchester ballistics tests and videos. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. prepare, practice, and persevere.